I have been around hand-pieced, hand-quilted quilts all my life, and I have always loved them. My mother-in-law, Bertha Hogue, taught me to quilt around 1976. When she volunteered to teach me to quilt, I jumped at the chance, not once thinking that it would become an addiction. She had been a quilter all of her life. Her mother had taught her. My first quilting project was a top I inherited from my grandmother, who died in 1969. I always laugh and tell everyone that Miss Hogue should have slapped my hands and made me rip out those stitches and make them smaller, but she didn't. She was patient and said it was my first try and I'd get better with practice, and she was right. Quilting gives me something to look forward to. I have met a lot of new friends, learned new techniques, and it has made me appreciate what women before me went through. I love all aspects of it, designing, piecing, and the quilting. It is my passion. I enjoy cutting fabric into small pieces and then sewing them back together to make a design. Women used to get together and have quilting bees with several women quilting on the same quilt, often to give as a gift. Today we get together and we work on our own projects and enjoy one another's company. We have sit and sew on Saturdays once or twice a month, and I take my projects to share with my friends. I enjoy the entire quilt culture. I enjoy looking at quilt magazines, and I shop fabric shops religiously. I enjoy reading books about quilting. There are books on the Amish that I enjoy. It is a talent to be able to piece and make quilts. It's an art that should be passed on down through the generations. Too many things have been lost down through the years. Quilts are heirlooms. A gardener cherishes heirloom seeds, and a cook has heirloom family recipes. It is a legacy to pass down for generations. I prefer the traditional quilt patterns, like the Irish chain, the flower garden, and the wedding ring, over the newer, more contemporary patterns. I have to say that the wedding ring is my favorite pattern, and the flower garden is next. I am in the process of making one of each. I have designed 2 quilts from scratch, creating my own patterns, and I really enjoyed that. I wanted to make a quilt to celebrate the new millennium in 2000. It also represents the end of a decade and a century as well as the millennium. It is also my own design. I sat down and began drawing and planning, and it took me several months to get it like I wanted it. I wanted 2000 in the middle, and I started looking for star blocks to put around the 2000. And I also wanted an American flag on it. It turned out great, and it is one of a kind. The year 2000 won't come around again, but this quilt might be here when the Lord comes back. Quilting began as a necessity. Women in olden days made quilts to keep their families warm in cold winters. They served a function in daily life. Today it is considered an art. To some it's a hobby and pastime, but to me it's a love. Quilting is a family tradition to the women in my family, and I have enjoyed being able to carry on what my mother and grandmothers before me have done. I have taken several classes and learned new techniques that my grandmother didn't have, and it makes things simpler and quicker than the old way, but you still get the same end results. A beautiful quilt to treasure forever. My grandmothers both quilted, and my husband's mother and grandmothers all quilted. I have quilts that they made. My husband's grandmother was an especially gifted quilter, well respected in her lifetime. My Aunt Flossie and Aunt Elvie and Aunt Thelma were all quilters. My husband's Aunt Ruby was an especially gifted hand and machine quilter. My Aunt Leila did all kinds of quilts, pieced, applique, embroidery. She could do most anything to do with quilting. My mother loved to piece quilts. She just passed away earlier this fall, but when she passed away, we displayed a quilt she had pieced at the funeral home. People who came through to pay their respects remarked on its beauty and my mother's talent. The quilt was pieced in the first 2 winters my parents were married, 1951 and 52 and 1952 and 53. Those were also the winters before my brother was born in 52 and I was born in 53. She gave it to me after I learned to quilt. I have some 40 quilts. Some have been given to me, several I have made, and some I have bought. I have exhibited several of my quilts in the Jacksonian Days Quilt Show, and I have won several ribbons, including the Janice Walden Excellence in Hand Quilting Prize. Janice Walden was a master quilter here in the community, so that is a very special prize. I have made quilts for my children and grandchildren as Christmas and birthday gifts. I have given quilts as gifts for weddings, housewarmings, and I make them to sell as I have time. My quilts have been displayed in the Kentucky building at WKU. On occasion, I have given quilts to be raffled and auctioned for good causes and benefits. As a member of the Allen County League of Arts and Craftsmen, I have had my work displayed recently at the public library. Quilting has its own language and expressions. Most people wouldn't know an Irish chain pattern from a Jacob's ladder, but a quilter does. Quilters recognize patterns the same way farmers know tractor models. Quilters use frames and hoops and use batting and buy fat quarters. This is all foreign to people not acquainted with their work. My quilted work includes table runners, pillowcases, rag quilts, wall hangings, table toppers, baby blankets, flannel quilts, placemats, checkbook covers, book covers, lap quilts, flag quilts, Christmas tree skirts, stockings, and tree garlands. My grandmother quilted to keep her 10 children warm. Their homes weren't as warm as homes today, and they would have 2 or 3 quilts piled on a bed. Today, houses are built better, heated more evenly, and most people don't even use quilts. They use blankets and comforters. Today, we go out and buy what we want for our quilting projects. Back then, they only had quilts if they had made them from things that they had on hands. They cut up clothes and used flour sacks. A lot of the materials from years ago is better quality than stuff you can buy today. I have been a child care provider in my home for 34 years, and there are tiresome days in that line of work. I quilt during nap time, and it is relaxing to me. I sit down at night and quilt for 2 or 3 hours before going to bed. It is relaxing to end the day that way. I call it my therapy.